I got the paperwork.
Good evening, everyone. Let's come to order. Thank you. I'd like to welcome everyone to the April 27th, 2010 meeting of the Glendale City Council. May we have the roll call, please?
Council members Draymond.
Here.
Friedman.
Here.
Quintero.
Here.
Weaver.
Here.
Mayor Najarian.
Here. Let's see. Mr. Draymond,
Yes, sir,
would you like
Mr.
to
Mayor.
lead us in the flag salute?
I would love to. If everyone would stand, please. Place your right hand over your heart and join me in saluting our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for the invocation. Last week marked the 40th anniversary of Earth Day, a day for us to remember the importance of respecting our environment and recognizing the gifts of nature as our greatest treasures and natural assets to be preserved and handed down to our children. But we had another reminder of the awesome force of nature this week. Tonight we pray for the families of fellow Americans whose lives have been touched by the tornadoes in the Midwest. Let us pray for those who have lost loved ones and for those who have survived but lost everything else. We pray for the survivors as they piece their lives back together. We will keep them in our thoughts and prayers. Amen.
May we have your report, Mr. Kassak?
The agenda for the April 27, 2010 regular meeting of the Glendale City Council was posted on Thursday, April 22, 2010 on the bulletin board outside City Hall.
Thank you. The next item?
Agenda preview for the meeting of May 4th, 2010 under presentation and appointments.
Ms. Beers.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, for May 4th, 2010, there are no business agenda items for the Glendale Housing Authority or the Redevelopment Agency. There will be a joint public meeting of the Glendale City Council and the Glendale Housing Authority, Director of Community Services and Parks regarding Federal Housing and Urban Development Section 108 application for a homeless access center and emergency shelter acquisition and rehab project. For the City Council meeting commencing at 6 p.m., we have a number of consent items. There are 3 items for General Manager of Glendale Water and Power amending existing contracts for the construction management services for the Chevy Chase 968 Reservoir and Pump Replacement Project, as well as Director of Public Works, fiscal year 2009-10, Proposition 1B, grant funding for local streets and roads. Under adoption of ordinances, we have an ordinance amending the Glendale Municipal Code 1995 relating to the city's recycled water service. And we have one item under action items, Director of Community Services and Parks, Glendale's entry in the 2011 Pasadena Tournament of Roses Parade. That concludes my report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Next item, please.
At 3B is a proclamation designating May 2010 as Bike Month in Glendale.
Thank you. I have a proclamation to read, and I'm going to ask Councilmember Friedman to wheel on down to the lower level and present it to the representatives. I see Mr. Bogart available. And the proclamation is as follows. Whereas for more than a century, the bicycle has been an important part of the lives of Americans, and whereas millions of Americans engage in cycling because it is a viable and environmentally sound means of transportation and an excellent form of physical exercise, and whereas there is a need to promote alternative forms of transportation, such as walking and bicycling, in order to reduce pollution, decrease Americans' dependence on fossil fuels, and improve the health and well-being of all people, and whereas the education of cyclists and motorists as to the safe operation of bicycles and sharing the road is important to ensure the safety and comfort of all travelers. And whereas the month of May is National Bike Month, which is recognized by cities and counties across the United States of America as an opportunity to promote the health and environmental benefits of riding a bicycle for transportation and recreation. Now, therefore, I, R. Najarian, Mayor of Glendale, proclaim the month of May 2010 as Bike Month in Glendale, and May 20th, 2010 as Bike to Work Day, and further encourage all citizens to ride their bicycles and promote cycling as good for our health and our environment.
Well, I want to congratulate all of you. Thank you, Colin, and all of the staff that's here for all of the work that you've been doing on behalf of cyclists in Glendale. As someone who's made the commitment to ride my bike out of my car to City Hall and on lots of trips around town, I can see the work that you're doing on the ground, and I really appreciate it. On behalf of the City Council, congratulations and thank you all.
Thank you.
Please, you have a few words?
Okay, yeah. Mayor Najarian, council members, city staff, good evening. My name is, of course, Colin Bogart. I work for the LA County Bicycle Coalition, working with the city of Glendale to make it better for cyclists and pedestrians. I want to briefly reiterate that our project, the Place Grant Safe and Healthy Streets project, is indeed a team effort. And we have 4 participating city departments on this team effort. And I have standing behind me this evening active members of that team, and I just want to recognize them briefly. We have Mark Sturdivant from Community Services and Parks, Kevin Carter from Public Works Engineering, Mike Nilsson from Community Planning, and Sergeant John Gilkerson from the Police Department. And we also have active participation from Public Works, Traffic, and Transportation. I also would like to mention that we have a number of community members in the audience tonight who have been actively supporting this project and have volunteered a lot of their time for this project, and I want to publicly acknowledge their contributions as well. Bike Month is an opportunity to celebrate the bicycle through education and encouragement. Joining this national effort, we have 14 activities planned this month in May, including documentary screenings, guest speakers, Bike to Work Day, and 2 history rides with the Glendale Historical Society. All of these events will be for free. The first history ride is this Saturday, May 1st. It's going to be a tour of the historic neighborhoods of Glendale. The first documentary screening will be on Monday, May 3rd at the Central Library. It's a documentary entitled We Are Traffic. And there will also be a pre-Bike to Work Day fair with the Glendale TMA on Tuesday, May 4th in downtown Glendale. I do have a brief slide that I wanted to show you and to the viewers at home who I'm sure are watching. For more information about Bike Month and all of the details of what activities are planned, you can go to www.la-bike.org/Glendale. It's la-bike.org/Glendale.
Is that Councilmember Friedman in the pink?
There you will find a link to a calendar of all the events that are being planned for this month. I should also briefly mention that Leon Mayer from the library will be telling you later about an event at the library next week. Finally, by encouraging people to ride a bike for recreation and transportation in May, we want those who live, work, or go to school in Glendale to enjoy the many benefits, the freedom, and the fun of cycling. We look forward to a month-long celebration of the bicycle in Glendale. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Councilmember Friedman,
Yep.
present that one more time.
Do the official. Yeah. You did.
And once more with the lens cap off.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember, thank you.
Mr. Kasakian, we have a walk-on to the agenda,
By all means.
and I have a proclamation for the Historic Preservation Month. And it goes as follows. I'd like to, Mr. Weaver, why don't I switch with you? You can take the proclamation down. And Arlene Vidor, if you'll come forward, and anyone else who supports you and your efforts. Whereas the National Historic Preservation Act of 1966 declares that the historical and cultural foundation of the nation be preserved as a living part of community life and development in order to give a sense of orientation to the American people, and whereas historic preservation is relevant for communities across the nation, both urban and rural, and for Americans of all ages, all walks of life, and all ethnic backgrounds, and whereas it is important to celebrate the role of history in our lives and the contributions made by dedicated individuals in helping to preserve the tangible aspects of the heritage that has shaped us as a people, And whereas Old is the New Green is the theme for National Preservation Month 2010, co-sponsored by the Historic Preservation Commission, the Glendale Historical Society, the Historical Society of the Crescenta Valley, and the National Trust for Historic Preservation. Now, therefore, I, R.N. Najarian, Mayor of Glendale, hereby proclaims the month of May 2010 as Historic Preservation Month in Glendale, and urge all citizens to join their fellow citizens across the United States in recognizing and participating in this special observance.
Being historic myself, I'm proud to
But well preserved.
some of the houses. And one of the things I'm most proud about on the city council is starting to build the historic districts in this city. About time before we lose some of our really good neighborhoods.
We hear that.
So congratulations for all the good work.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mayor Najarian and council members. I'm very honored to accept this proclamation on behalf of the Historic Preservation Commission. Ruben Amirian, our chairperson, was not able to be here today, but one of my fellow commissioners is here, Vrej Mardian, who is in back of me and is on his second term as a commissioner. So he's one of our two senior members. Desiree Shire and Mike Morgan are also on the commission. They could not be here, but they're very thrilled and pleased about this proclamation and ready to do Historic Preservation Month. We've had wonderful things happen thanks to the support of many, many people, great staff on Planning Commission, Planning Commission and the Planning Department, as well as yourselves on City Council. And we're very, very grateful for the support you've given Glendale's Historic Preservation Program. We've accomplished a lot in the last few years, but we don't want to rest on our accomplishments. We have a lot more to do, and we're very excited to be able to be doing it. And we look forward to really becoming the leader in Southern California in historic preservation, or making Glendale the leader in the area. I'd also like to introduce a couple other people. I have John Locascio, who is the president of the Glendale Historical Society, here also, as well as Lorna Vartanyan, who is not only a board member of the Historical Society, but the chairperson of the Ross Moyne Historic District Committee. And I'm very pleased to say that yesterday at the Historic Preservation Commission, the Commission recommended approval to proceed with the first petition for the process to look at getting Ross Moyne designated as a historic district. So the first step has been taken, and that is a 504-house historic district. So we're very, very thrilled about that. And there are others who are in the process of preparing applications. So it's going to be a great year for us. John?
Thank you, Arlene, Mayor Najarian, council members. On behalf of the Board of Directors and members of the Historical Society, I'd like to thank you for the proclamation, and thank you, most importantly, for the partnership that we've built over these last several years with the council, with various city departments, planning, parks, public works, to preserve Glendale's architectural heritage. And we're going to be putting some of that on show this month with an event at the Cedar Heritage Garden, and with our bike ride of historic neighborhoods that Colin mentioned. So we'll be kicking off Historic Preservation Month in quite a good way. So thank you all for your support.
Thank you. Mr. Draymond?
Oh, I just had a question, and I hope this won't challenge Mr. Quintero as our longest-standing greenest member of the council, but if old is the new green, I think, Mr. Weaver, that makes you the greenest council member on the
I'll
dais.
take that as a compliment.
Just kidding. Well, you beat me to it. You refer to yourself as historic, so.
Yeah, that's right. I'm older than some of the homes that are getting historic.
Can you give us the date of the bike ride again, the historic bike ride, and the details when people meet and where,
Oh, okay.
or how they can find that information?
The first bike ride is May 1st, this coming Saturday. So if you want to join us for a tour through Glendale's historic neighborhoods on two wheels, come to the Chess Park. I think everybody knows where that is, at 9 o'clock in the morning. And then there's another bike ride coming up. John? Okay. Sorry. I believe, and hopefully, please.
You're still here.
Our partner.
The second bike ride will be on Saturday, May 22nd. That will be the Historic Parks of Glendale. Same starting location, Chess Park, at 9 a.m.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Mr. Kasakian, let's go to 3C, back to our regular order.
Mr. Mayor and Council, 3C is presentation of Reliable Public Power Provider, RP3 Award.
Thank you. Mr. Steiger.
Mayor Najarian, members of the Glendale City Council, I am very pleased to present to you tonight the American Public Power Association's Reliable Public Power Provider, or RP3 Award. We are very, very honored to have received this. We are only one of 83 out of 2,000 public power utilities to receive this award this year. And it's very, very, it's a prestigious national award, so we're very, very proud of that. And I want to also thank Ramon Abueg for all of his work that's really been put, he and his staff, that's been put behind this to get there. And you may recall, just a few short years ago, electric reliability here in Glendale was at times less than satisfactory, at times. You can see that the fact that we've now won a national award for reliability speaks volumes on how much we've improved in that area. So I'm very, very pleased to present this to you. And I'd like to introduce Ramon to give you a little bit more of the details as to what's behind it.
Oh, good evening, council members. This is also a product. If you recall, 4 years ago, we came to you asking that we bond some of the projects that we have in order to improve the infrastructure of the system. And we used that, we put that money to good use, and this is a product as a result of that. We did invest in the improvement of the project. Just to let you know, RP3 stands for Reliable Public Power Provider, and there are 4 different categories that they look for in their awards. One of them being system improvement. We have to show that we are investing money into our system to fix or build the infrastructure. Second is reliability, that we are tracking progress and we are recording that we're benchmarking where we are. Third is safety, that we have a good safety program and management is behind it all the way from you to our management and to our employees, that we have a good safety program. And last but not least is workforce development, that we are investing time to train our employees to be better and also be able to promote. There were 3 levels of awards. One's gold, one's platinum, and one's diamond. We were given the platinum award. We missed the diamond by 2 points. So our goal is to get those 2 points. And the 1 point is because we don't have in our trucks, part of safety, they're looking for the defibrillators in our trucks. We don't have that currently, and we're investigating to what that would cost to do that. And second item is we didn't have a formalized succession planning. We demonstrated that we have succession planning. We have not produced a policy that formalized that. So with that, also want to take this opportunity to really thank staff from engineering to our field staff who really have worked very hard to keep the lights on in the city of Glendale. Again, I want to thank you for your support, for giving us allowing us to borrow the money to build the infrastructure and to get to where we are. So thank you again.
Why don't you repeat the name of the award again?
The award is called RP3. It stands for Reliable Public Power Provider.
And it's to Glendale Water and Power.
That is correct. And that's recognizing the improvements that we have made since back in 2004-2005 period.
And that's critical to note. I know that several years ago when we were discussing the bonding, there was a lot of confusion as to why we're putting out those bonds. It was a large amount of money.
$60 million.
Right. And there was some criticism that we got from the public. But this award, I think, validates the efforts and the goals that we placed in obtaining those bonds. We put it back into the infrastructure to provide reliable and safe service to the customers. And I guess the award speaks for itself, Reliable Public Power Provider. So thank you very much for all your efforts, and we're very proud And is this an annual award?
It's every 2 years. We have to reapply every 2 years, and the program really gives us an opportunity to either maintain the service that we have or show improvements. And our goal is to really get the Diamond Award. So we'll get those 2 points in the next 2 years.
Okay.
We're working towards it.
Maybe we can combine the paramedic service with the defibrillators that we're going to be placing on those trucks. Thank you very much. Any other questions?
I'd like to present this to you if...
Sure. I didn't do much to get it. Well, thank you.
And we appreciate the support that you've given us. Thank you very, very much.
The next item, Mr. Kasakian.
3D is reappointment of Mr. Sam Manukian to the Civil Service Commission. This was the nomination of Councilmember Quintero.
Mr. Quintero.
Okay, I move we reappoint Sam Manukian to the Civil Service Commission. He actually, I believe, took over an unexpired term. He's done an excellent job serving on the commission. In addition to that, he's very involved in Glendale's civic life. There's a list of all of the different organizations and advisory committees that he serves on. He's an excellent choice to continue as Civil Service Commissioner.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmembers Draymond?
Yes.
Friedman?
Yes.
Quintero?
Yes.
Weaver?
Aye.
Mayor Najarian?
Yes. Let me go now to Mr. Weaver.
Thank you. I would like to put in nomination next week for the Civil Service Commission, Reg Gregorian. I'll go over his background next week.
Thank you.
And secondly, I would like to adjourn tonight's council meeting in memory of Donald McWilliam. His family moved here in 1927. He was a veteran of the U.S. Air Force and a graduate of course, USC. Spent a long career with the Bank of America, rising up through the ranks. And when he retired, he became the president of Central Bank of Glendale. He was president of the Chamber of Commerce, chairman of the Planning Commission, chairman of the Personnel Commission of the Glendale Unified School District, member of the Advisory Board of Glendale YMCA and League of Women Voters, and director of Glendale Association in-group donors and the United Way. He also was a Glendale City Councilman, serving as chairman of the Redevelopment Agency, and was the mayor of Glendale from 1972 to 1973. Survived by his wife and, 3 great-grandchildren, at least behind. I found this on our obituary page. It just goes to show that when council members leave the dais, we're lucky if we get on the obituary page. So but I'd like to adjourn in his memory.
Thank you. We will do so at the end of the meeting.
Okay, and we're going to comments.
Yes, go right ahead if you have comments, Mr.
Yes.
Yeah, we've been moving into City Council and staff comments portion of the agenda.
Many times we have people come up to the podium here that throw statistics information at us. It's coming out of left field, and we are seldom able to respond at the moment that it happens. It can happen at council, redevelopment, housing, or even budget study sessions. Yesterday it happened at a budget study session. Mr. Herbert Milano got up here and accused us of misreporting or lying or deceiving, whatever word you want to put to it, on the amount of money that we paid or didn't pay into PERS. We said that we were flat, and he said that was wrong. So staff did research, and Mr. McFall, could you please explain the real facts?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Weaver, and council members, after the concern was expressed that we had not properly reported this would be back in the early 2000s, over a couple-year period of time, that we had not properly reported out the amount of PERS payment that we had made. In essence, that we had reported that it was zero, and the concern was expressed that it actually was several $1 million, and that we had not properly informed council or the community of that. We looked into the background of how that conclusion could be made and came with a very simple explanation. First, it's important to understand there are two components to PERS payment. One is the employee contribution, and that's fixed by PERS, and then also can be adjusted further beyond what PERS establishes through MOU agreements, which is what we actually have, where our employees pay beyond what the minimum of what PERS would define as the employee contribution. They actually pay and have paid for a number of years an additional amount. Then there is the employer contribution, and that amount goes up and down depending upon the actuarial assessment and analysis of where we are in our current payment structure, the health of the fund that each individual city has. And like an insurance policy, there's an actuarial assessment that's made, and every year the rate may adjust up, may adjust down, may stay the same. In the report that was presented to council, which seemed to indicate that in the years where we were reporting where the city was actually paying zero, there was several $1 million that had been paid out, but that was the employee's contribution. There was no payment made by the city other than some miscellaneous cleanup amounts that come from following years that are a de minimis amount. But as far as being superfunded, no payment. There was no payment that the city made. We collect through payroll deduction the employee's contribution when we place that into a fund, and then at the appropriate times we forward that fund and those amounts to PERS. It is a revenue and an expense, so it does show up through our accounting in that manner.
And the auditors that audit our books said that we did exactly right.
Yes, so that, as Mr. Elliott had indicated, without exactly knowing what the explanation was going to be, that of course if there was any fraudulent accounting, it would have been revealed by the outside auditors.
I hope the point that is not lost on the home audience. People get up here and say things, and you can be sitting at home and say, oh my God, the city really messed up there and stuff. Then when staff goes and digs into it, they find out the exact opposite. But many times you do not hear that response back correcting what was said. Because one time I wanted it on the record, since we're going through the budget study sessions, that no, we did the right thing for all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Weaver. Any other comments? Mr. Quintero.
Yes, I wanted to thank the committee that's been working for months and months on our week of remembrance, which includes the program at the Alex on the Armenian genocide. We had two well-attended programs at the Glendale Central Library, and then it culminated Thursday evening at the Alex. It was a great program. I thought very artistic. I got multiple emails and congratulations, but specifically the committee, it's all volunteers. In this case, or this year, Mr. Najarian and I were the co-chairs, but everyone else is a volunteer, and they work really hard throughout the year to raise the funds, to organize the program, to bring in the people that participate. It was very well done, and I'm sure next year it'll be an even bigger event, actually. I know we're going to work doubly hard, but my thanks go out to the committee and to all the people that attended the different events.
Thank you. Mr. Draymond.
Well, I would also like to congratulate you, Mr. Mayor, and Councilmember Quintero on co-chairing a very successful event, the Armenian Genocide Observance on the 23rd, and also would like to thank the committee and all the volunteers and interested party, plus all the people who showed up to watch the event. It was a terrific event, and it just gets better every year, I have to say. And this year was incredibly thoughtful and tasteful performance. I thought it was terrific. Enjoyed it very much, and the comments that I heard from people there who stopped me afterward or called me during the week thought it was terrific. So congratulations on that, and thank you for your time and service. The other thing I wanted to mention, Mr. Mayor, is Sunday, May the 2nd, is the 9th annual Kids and Critters Day in Montrose, presented by the Montrose Shopping Park Association. It's their 9th year. This is a day that's dedicated to children and pets and animals. So they have all kinds of activities for children, rides, petting zoo, pony rides, Wild Wonders animal program comes up from San Diego. You may recall having seen them on The Tonight Show often. They do hands-on program with the kids where you can actually go up and pet a tarantula, hold a python, and yes, Mr. Najarian, even you could go up and see the Arctic fox and get to meet a meerkat and a millipede and all kinds of exotic animals. There's a magic show that incorporates animals as well. There are walk-around characters. And then in addition to that, the Shopping Park Association partners with the Humane Society, and they have a full section of vendor booths that relate to public service for animals, animal adoptions, Ask the Vet, and then there are sponsored booths and private booths that sell products for your pets. And then, in addition to that, the event also incorporates another fundraiser that is Proms Plus for Crescenta Valley High. And they sponsor at the same time, the same place, a Taste of Montrose. It involves all of the restaurants, not only in the shopping park, but in the whole Montrose, North Glendale, Crescenta Valley area. So it has become quite a huge event. It draws about 18,000 people now. It is this Sunday from 9 a.m. till 2 p.m. And of course, in addition, it's in tandem with the Montrose Harvest Market and the Thieves Market that's there each week as well. So I hope everybody turns out. You can also see the ads for it starting tomorrow in the Glendale News Press and see all the details about it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Is this also the Wags and Whiskers?
It is. That's the Humane Society's event is called the Wags and Whiskers Walk, which is a sponsored pet walking event that starts at Anderson's Pet Shop in the 2200 block, and you'll see hundreds of people walking their pets on a set course, and it raises money for the Glendale Humane Society.
Very good. Thank you. Ms. Friedman.
Thank you. It was a busy week, so I just have a few things to mention. First, I'll just echo the congratulations about the Armenian Genocide commemorative event. It was incredibly moving. Those of you who couldn't make it, it has been running on Channel 6, so if you watch Channel 6, you'll have a chance to see it. I also want to just thank the Glendale Philharmonic who played, and they had a really just incredible program, and also the Armenian Dramatic Arts Alliance, which performed an original work about the genocide that was really beautiful and very, very moving. Next, I wanted to congratulate Temple Sinai of Glendale for their Guardian of Righteousness fundraiser dinner, which I attended. I didn't realize until last week that Adam Schiff is a member of the congregation, so our congressman was there to give his congratulations and really helped to make it a very special night for the congregation and for the three honorees, Bob Butte, Linda Spiel, and Mindy and Jean Stein, who are all recognized for their contributions to the temple. An announcement today, you may have noticed something strange going on Brand. That was the inauguration of the new free downtown trolley, which runs every day from 11 a.m. until 2:30. It runs from the Americana up all the way above the 134 on Brand to Nestle. There's several stops along the way. I believe there's 8 stops, all identified with distinctive trolley markings. It's my hope that everybody rides this trolley instead of driving their cars up and down Brand. It'll certainly make it easier to get around the city They're really fun and beautiful. They look like old trolleys on wheels. In fact, they look, I think, exactly like the trolleys that are on tracks, except that they're on wheels. And if you get a card from the concierge, a free card, every time you ride the free trolley, if you get 6 stamps for 6 rides, you get $10 off anything at the Americana. So you're actually being paid to ride a free trolley up and down Brand. So I hope people take advantage of that. And last but not least, I wanted to just let the community know about a trip I took last week with several members of the, and I see that there's a picture of the trolley, so you'll know what it looks like. Only I think now it doesn't have the cheerleaders, so look for one without cheerleaders on it. And anyway, last week, a group of Glendale representatives of city staffers, including myself, had the opportunity to go up to Berkeley on a trip paid for by the Place Grant and the LA Bike Coalition to look at the innovative new traffic measures that Berkeley's taking to encourage bikes and pedestrians. So if we can go to the slides. We had representatives of the city from the planning department, redevelopment, the police department, traffic and engineering, and I think that was pretty much everyone. You can see that's a picture of us on the new Berkeley Bike and Pedestrian Bridge, which goes over the highway and lets people commute to San Francisco. And it's my hope that one day we have a similar type of bridge that goes over the 5 freeway and the LA River so that people can go back and forth from Glendale to Griffith Park safely and easily. So that's one slide. Next slide. That's just showing some of the more innovative traffic measures. And this is a protected bike lane on a street which I believe is a 2-way street but has traffic breaks. But this protects the bikes as they go forward, and the cars here are diverted to turn right, freeing up the road for what they call a bike avenue. So only bikes can go all the way through this particular road. Cars are diverted on and off of it. Next slide. This is another view of a different bike boulevard to try to make biking through the city safer. In the next slide. And this is just showing some signage, like I think that we will be instituting in Glendale sooner rather than later, that shows people on bikes and on foot the distance and the location to get to popular destinations around town. So it was a very valuable trip. Everybody on it learned a lot of really interesting things about what's being done and what can be done. Berkeley is a very small city in compared to Glendale, but they're extremely dense. So a lot of the problems that they're having are similar problems, and I mean dense in terms of population, not... They actually have more PhDs, they told us.
That's why I was...
That's right. They told us that they have more PhDs per capita than I think any other city in the United States. So they're a very smart city. But in terms of their traffic, they've got a lot of challenges, and a lot more challenges than we do, and they're really managing to deal with their traffic congestion all around the city by trying to get people off the roads, out of their single occupancy automobiles and onto public transportation, foot and bike. And it's working so well that their bike stations are so jammed that they're opening new bike stations to give people places to park their bikes when they're at work. And I'm hoping that with staff's help and the support of the council, we can start instituting some of these sorts of programs here in Glendale, get to a healthier community, cars off the street, and a more livable community. So I want to thank Colin Bogart, who was here a little bit earlier but now is gone, for putting this trip together. And we also got to spend an hour with the mayor of Berkeley. So that was really fascinating, and they really put out the red carpet for this contingent from Glendale, and hopefully they'll come here and we can return the favor. So thank you, Mr. Mayor, for letting me do my little show and tell.
Thank you. I have 2 items. I have good news and I have bad news. They both relate to the MTA. Let's start with the good news. The good news is, due to the foresight of the City Council, we had an item that came before us, maybe about 9 months ago, and that was to approve membership in a JPA, a Tri-City Transportation Consortium with the cities of Burbank and Pasadena. Based on that JPA, we made an application to the MTA to obtain funds for transit. And this was a project that was actually several years in the making, but it took our resolution to officially join the JPA that certified our actions, and we were awarded for a 3-year period the sum of about $700,000 for each year. We haven't decided yet how to spend that. That's going to go into our transit fund, and I look forward to discussions on whether we'll increase service or increase hours of service, routes, etc. So that was the good news. Very good news for us. The bad news is the 710 tunnel is picking up steam. I tried hard to delay the vote on that at the MTA this month. I was successful, but I only got it put off for 1 month. That means on May 27th meeting, there will be a vote on the 710 tunnel, and the options are going to be to either kill the tunnel, to approve its plan and to move forward with an EIR, and the last option is to send it back for more studies, which would take into account health issues, health risks, as well as traffic issues and the like. The people that support the tunnel are going full speed, and it really shocks me that they're so committed to a project that will be so incredibly expensive, so incredibly anti-sustainable in its methods of transportation. The MTA has taken great steps forward towards sustainable transit. This tunnel is going to be a big step backward. It's going to encourage single-occupant vehicles to stay on the roadway and to have the drivers shun any attempt at transit, buses, bus rapid transit, bicycling, light rail, etc. We are working hard. I think the troops are massing for not a demonstration, but massing for the meeting to have their opinions heard. The cities of South Pasadena, La Cañada, Flint Ridge, and of course Glendale, we're all against the tunnel. There's got to be a better way to connect people to their jobs rather than putting the tunnel in. It's a fight that I'm fighting, and it's not easy. If you ask me today what the votes were, I think the votes would be to go forward with the tunnel. Fortunately, we're getting some strong leadership from Congressman Adam Schiff, Assemblyman Anthony Portantino, who feel that it's not the right time to go forward. We need to find out what the effects are of this tunnel on the communities, on our health, on our children, on the traffic patterns, etc. So stay tuned. That's a battle that's going to be fought May 27th. And if there's no other comments, we'll move right into the consent calendar. I have a request to pull items A and B. However, C through G are ready for motion.
I'll move that for the remainder, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Second, let's take roll call on C through G.
Council members Draymond?
Yes.
Friedman?
Yes.
Quintero? Weaver?
Aye.
Mayor Najarian?
Yes. And let's go to 5A, please.
5A is City Clerk regarding approval of the minutes of the joint meeting of City Council and the Housing Authority held on Tuesday, March 23, 2010, and the joint meeting of the City Council and Redevelopment Agency, and the regular City Council meeting held on Tuesday, April 13, 2010, and the joint meeting of the City Council and the Housing Authority held on Tuesday, April 20, 2010.
Thank you. Mr. Milano? Can I give you 2 minutes? Do you need more than 2? I imagine it's an
Mayor
error.
and members of the City Council, my name is Herbert Milano. It was a few months ago, I can't recall if it was 4 or 6 months ago, that I came before you to make a suggestion that on the minutes that are recorded by the City Clerk, that a statement be made in summary with regard to what the speakers come here to talk about. The reason for that is that by just simply having a name, and since you do not respond to the speaker anyway, there should be some kind of record with regard to the issues that the public is bringing to you. I remember Councilman Draymond asked the city staff to come back with a report to see how this objective could be accommodated. I think it is the just thing to do, to recognize the speakers that come before you, and to record at least the topic that was brought, or whether they were the statements made for or against a particular topic, or a request that the city do something. But the fact that we are not recognized, that we don't get a reply, and that nothing is recorded on the minutes, even though people come again and again to ask for the same type of issues, I think it merits for the public to have some kind of record within the minutes with regard to their topic that they bring to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor and Council, I just want to clarify that meetings are recorded, the minutes are recorded, and comments are recorded. There's an audio recording available for anyone to go online on the archives on the city's website. They can request DVDs from the library as well and to see what the comments are.
Thank you. And let me ask Mr. Howard. Mr. Howard, if it were, whose discretion is it to, I don't want to say modify the minutes, but to include a statement, speaker for or against the motion or the issue at hand? Is that a?
It would be the council's. In the past, we had what were called broader minutes, which had many pages long. The council then moved to action minutes, which is essentially the roll call and the action that's taken. That's what the minutes before you are, action minutes. Should the council desire to consider opening those up, we should bring back a short report.
Okay, so that we would need to agendize that, hold a discussion. It's not within the chairman's, within the mayor's purview to direct.
Well, the mayor's purview is to really conduct the meeting, and as a presiding officer, there's a number of things you can do administratively, but the minutes, and it goes back to city council direction to provide action minutes many years ago.
Okay. I wouldn't be opposed to bringing that before us so we can discuss whether we'd like to make any changes to the
docket
current
of things to bring back.
method. Mr. Quintero.
Spit mic.
Microphone.
I wanted to be clear, the speaker mentioned people come time and time again. No, the same people come time and time again. And just want to clear that up. And then the second thing is that, yes, we do have a digital recording of everything that takes place here at the city council meetings, as well as redevelopment, housing authority, and all of the meetings that take place in the city of Glendale. So it's not like somehow there's a lack of information in terms of the issues that go before the city and its boards. Just wanted to clear the record.
Thank you. I don't see any harm in a discussion, and as a council, we can decide whether we want to make any changes or how detailed we would want to get into recording
We'd be happy
the
to bring
speaker's
those up.
intents.
We'll work with the city attorney on that.
Is there anyone that would support
Well,
that?
I already asked. I asked,
did,
as
then I
Mr.
support.
Milano pointed out, I asked about 8 months ago, and there was I don't know who the other council member was that said, it might have been you, Mr. Najarian, that said, that agreed that we could agendize that, but it has not come back. In fact, while I was mayor, on at least one occasion, at the end of the meeting, I actually did recap the essential topic that each speaker brought up.
Well, let's dust off Mr. Draymond's request and put it on one of our future agendas, assuming the information is still. Thank you. So that was 5A.
5A, I have no problem with that.
And is there a motion for 5A?
So moved.
Second. Roll call, please.
Council members Draymond,
Yes.
Friedman,
Yes.
Quintero,
Yes.
Weaver,
Aye.
Mayor Najarian.
Yes. 5B, please.
5B is Director of Public Works regarding San Fernando Road and adjacent street rehabilitation project, Phase 1, Proposition 1B, spec number 3386. B1 is a motion awarding a construction contract to Sully Miller Contracting Company in the amount of $1,236,955.40 plus $185,000 in contingencies and rejecting all other bids.
Thank you. Mr. Mohill, you've submitted a card. Let's go 2 minutes. Okay. Can you do it in 2
Mohill.
minutes, Mr. Mohill?
President, Glendale. Just to comment on Mr. Quintero's comment, the same people come back here and speak all the time. Mr. Quintero,
Well, I'm going to, Mr. Mohill.
would you rather have a dictatorship here?
Mr. Mohill.
If we don't speak at all?
Mr. Mohill.
Thank you.
All I would request is that you direct
Okay.
your comments to the item that you've requested,
All
which
right.
is 5B. You can.
I will.
You
Yes,
can
I'll do
address
that
the
oral
rest at
communication.
oral
Yes, I will.
communications.
Thank you very much. I'm glad we're having our streets resurfaced. I always love to see that. But you forgot East Glen Oaks Boulevard, where I live. How did we make that decision that was going to be along San Fernando Road? I have no problem with San Fernando Road. It's a major thoroughfare, but we have other major thoroughfares that are not being resurfaced, like Glendale Avenue, La Cañada Boulevard, Central Avenue. We need the money. Where are we going to get the extra money? I know where we can find an extra $2.1 million is up in Montrose for Rock Haven proposed and the barn. The park. Remember the budget session that you talked about? You planned in the budget session, Mr. Draymond? Yeah, for Rock Haven, $1.2 million. I saw it right in the budget plan.
Thank you, Mr. Mohill. Mr. Zern, in 2 sentences, or maybe 3 sentences, can you tell us what the criteria we use to determine which streets are next in line for resurfacing and
3 sentences?
slurry, or, I mean, briefly.
That's tough.
I know it's a long
That's tough
subject.
for me.
We've had study sessions on it and gone through the whole thing before, but just briefly.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, what we use is what's called a pavement management system, and that is a automated system that takes into account a number of factors, which includes roadway rideability, condition, and so forth, and they rank it on an order of 1 to 10, 1 being worst, and we set our annual programs based on that. The comment that, just to make a comment, that this, in response to the speaker, Cañada, Glendale, and Central are all in design stage right now, so those are coming. It's just we can only do so much work at one time. We can only block so many streets at one time.
Okay, so it's objective criteria with standards. It's not just throwing a dart at a dartboard as to which one we're going to...
Correct. And in fact, Mr. Mayor, because in the last several months there's been a lot of comments about what we are or aren't doing with regards to the roads, and I disagree with a lot of it, so what I thought the best thing to do is we're going to come to you and make a presentation of the pavement management system and what we've achieved.
That would be great. That would be great. Thank you. Mr. Weaver.
Well, how often is that index updated?
Every 5 years, Mr. Weaver.
5 years. And as a person who drives on San Fernando Road quite often and who drives on East Glen Oaks at minimum 2 times a day, San Fernando Road is in my professional opinion as an engineer, San Fernando Road is in much greater need of repaving than East Glen Oaks.
Thank you. Is there a motion for 5B?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Well, who was the second on that?
Mr. Quintero.
Okay, thank you. Council members Draymond?
Yes.
Friedman?
Yes.
Quintero?
Yes.
Weaver?
Aye.
Mayor Najarian?
Yes. Thank you. That concludes our consent calendar. Let's move to the next item, please.
Next item would be oral communications.
Thank you. We're going to take comments of general public interest and community events first, for 3 minutes each. Edgar Sandoval.
Mr. Mayor, council members and staff, good evening. Thank you for providing me the honor to speak here tonight. My name is Edgar Sandoval. I am the director of the Glendale Philharmonic Orchestra. I want to begin by thanking former Mayor Frank Quintero, present Mayor Ara Najarian, Councilwoman Laura Friedman, Councilman John Draymond, for the wonderful opportunity to perform at the Armenian Genocide Memorial Concert that took place last Friday, the 23rd of April, 2010. I'm here to spread the word about our upcoming performance that is sponsored by Positive Motions, which is affiliated with the Glendale Philharmonic. We're always expanding our Positive Motions concert series, and thus I would like to spread the word about our upcoming performance. Mother's Day is next weekend, so we are dedicating this community event for all our mothers. This can be your gift for your mother by simply bringing her to the concert. You are all invited to this occasion. The concert will be held next Saturday, May 8th, 2010 at 7:30 p.m. It will be held right here in Glendale at the First Baptist Church of Glendale. The address is 209 North Louise Street, Glendale, California, 91206. On the corner of Louise Street and Wilson Avenue, parking is available. Tickets can be purchased at glendalephilharmonic.com or at area code 323-663-3601. Tickets are $15, $20, $25, or $50. We offer student discounts as well as group rates, tickets as low as $3 a ticket. This event will be filled with exceptional talent, one part of the show being classical music with a world premiere for two cellos by George and Giannopoulos, and the other part being a one-woman show presented by mezzo-soprano Ruby Hines. Ruby Hines is a world-renowned performer. She is a rising star and has a beautiful voice and should not be missed. See There in the Distance is the name of her show that gives tribute to Marian Anderson. In a review of an appearance with the Los Angeles Philharmonic Orchestra, the Los Angeles Times wrote, quote, "Mezzo Ruby Hines carried the afternoon. Her great majesty and compelling elegance set the tone. She brought long-breathed phrases, caressed by rich, dark, gleaming Wagnerian timbre. Ich bin der Welt abhanden gekommen." Managed to be transporting, end quote. We also have other wonderful talent there, and this is a community event not to be missed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker is Alicia Harris, followed by Leon Mayer.
Thank you. My name is Alicia Harris, and I'd like to take a quick moment, if I may, before I announce the event I'm here to announce, to thank Councilmember Friedman and Councilmember Draymond, who recently came to speak to my class. I am a government teacher at Crescenta Valley High School, and in brief, I do an assignment where students write to officials at the city, the council, the state, and the national level, and we've got a fantastic response. So and various people came and actually answered their questions. And I'd like to share that it, as you could probably attest, it really wasn't just hooray, thanks for being council members. They kind of grilled you. So I wanted to thank you for taking your time, the questions. I do have some cards. Most importantly, I wanted to share, that I'm always emphasizing to the students that, a democracy does depend on their participation. And I try to emphasize to them as well that if you choose to exercise your voice, you can in fact have one. So by them writing and you actually coming, thank you for, giving some credibility to things I say, because it shows that they can have a voice. And lastly, I should share from them that when we debriefed a bit and I said, what do you guys think? I think they gave you the ultimate 17-year-old compliment, which is that you're very real. And, 17-year-olds can smell phoniness from a mile away. So I thank you for your authenticity and honestness, honesty, pardon me, I'm not an English teacher, honesty in answering questions. So momentarily I'll get these thank you notes kind of going around to you. I am also here in related but a separate capacity as the Vice President of the Glendale Teachers Association. And I wanted to share with all of you as well as the community at large a problem and an event that we have to hopefully remedy this. As you are all aware, and I'm sure the community is aware, 105 teachers in Glendale have received pink slips. 101 of these are elementary teachers, as the school board has made a decision, a 4-to-1 decision, to eliminate the class size reduction in the elementary schools. What this will mean next year, if this goes through, is there will be an increase in K-3 class size by up to 50%. I should share that LAUSD, who has a much smaller percentage than we do in reserves, recently voted to reverse almost all of their RIFs, which is the reduction in force, the pink slips, and they will be maintaining their current K-3 class size, which is 24-to-1. Ours is currently 23, with the plan to go to 30-to-1. This is something that the teachers, parents, community members have spoken at board meetings about. We are all wearing these ribbons honoring the 105 teachers. We are now trying to further coordinate our efforts of the parents, community members. And with that, Thursday, there will be a Glendale Teacher-Parent Class Size Summit held Thursday at 6 p.m. at the Toll Middle School Auditorium. There will be some refreshments served. There we will talk about the details of the RIFs. It is our firm belief, based on a very solid understanding of the district budgets, that this is not a necessary thing to do, that it is essentially taking fiscal conservatism to the nth degree. Our argument is, they've been saving for a rainy day, and it is certainly raining. It is time to go into those reserves, save the programs that are so important to this community. So with that, I do encourage community members to come to the Glendale Teacher Parent Class Size Summit. And I will also pass these flyers to you all. I should add as a side, I put my phone number at the bottom. That's not for a date, but perhaps you would, if any of you would like to speak on this event, we would love to have such respected members as yourself speak. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. I don't have any other cards.
On Mayor.
The mayor.
Oh, I'm sorry, Leon Mayer. And I don't have any other cards after Leon Mayer.
Good evening, Mr. Najarian, members of the council, staff. My name is Leon Mayer. I'm here on behalf of the Glendale Public Library, Friends of the Library. And I'd like to, first of all, start out to talk about, briefly, the forgotten people of Glendale, the older people who remember the jazz area, the big band area. And we're having a program Thursday night. John Tumpak, historian and jazz historian, will talk about his book, When the Swing Was the Thing. And he's written a book about that. That's 7 o'clock this Thursday. If you look at the news press tomorrow morning and next morning, you'll see the announcement about that program. Secondly, I'm pleased that the Friends of the Library have co-sponsored with the Los Angeles County Bicycle Coalition the event for Gil Garcetti, former district attorney of Los Angeles County and a biker. And when he left office, he turned to photography. He's a world-class photographer, and he went to Paris with his wife, and he took pictures for 3 years of women on bicycles, and he also reduced it to a beautiful book form with a little narrative attached, and he will be showing his book and his pictures on May 5th. That's a week from tomorrow, at May 5th, 7 o'clock at the Glendale Central Library. And finally, we have what I consider our most important program in May and in some months. Father Greg Boyle, the father who grew up in East Los Angeles and worked with gang intervention, and he founded the Homeboys. He's known nationally for all his work in gang intervention, and he's going to talk about the book that he reflect all the things he's done during his professional life as a father, parish priest. And the name of the book is Tattoos on the Heart, The Power of Boundless Compassion. And the title, in a sense, if you think about it, says the whole thing. And he's going to be here to talk about his book and answer questions from the audience and sell his book. And we're looking forward to a great program. And I think the community is going to get out to honor the presence of Father Boyle at the library Monday at 7 o'clock, May 10th. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, and that is my last card for this section of oral communications. Let's move on to the next item, please.
Moving on to action items, at 8A is General Manager of Glendale Water and Power regarding proposed amendments to Chapter 13.04 and 13.28 of the Glendale Municipal Code 1995 regarding recycled water service.
Mr.
At
Steiger.
A1 is an ordinance for introduction.
Mayor Najarian, members of the Glendale City Council, we are proposing that the council authorize GWP to amend its recycled water ordinance to allow for the expansion and potential funding of recycled water in Glendale, and also to allow for some other usages such as fire hydrants and what's known as blow-offs in the air. So, without going into a lot of detail, that's what we're asking for. If you'd like some detail, I can introduce our Assistant General Manager, Peter Kavunas.
I'm not sure we need that, but just so we're clear that this is not deciding on any particular expansion project nor committing any funds, but to even consider such action, we need to amend the ordinance to permit us to do so.
That is correct.
Okay. And we'll have the discussion on specifics, funding, cost effectiveness, locations, areas, lines at a later date.
That's also correct.
In the year.
Yes.
Mr. Draymond.
Mr. Mayor, unless any of our colleagues are interested in more, I'll be happy to move the item or introduce the ordinance at 8A1.
Thank you.
Second.
No, you don't need it.
No second needed, but if
Sorry?
there's any comments.
Take my second back.
If there's any comments before we move on to
Use
the
it on
next
the next
item.
one.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Steiger.
Thank you.
And thank you, Mr. Kavunas, for sitting patiently. The next item, please.
Mr. Mayor and Council, at 8B is General Manager of Glendale Water and Power regarding wireless communication facility month-to-month rental agreement for the rental of a portion of the city-owned property located at 827 Airway. B1 is a resolution authorizing the execution of the month-to-month rental agreement.
Mr. Steiger.
Mayor Najarian, members of the Glendale City Council. GWP owns a piece of property which is located within the boundaries of our Utility Operations Center, or UOC, at Airway. And on that property is an AT&T cellular tower with some associated equipment on it. There has been an existing rental agreement for about the last 7 years with AT&T, which is now expired. So what we are asking is the ability to reinstitute this rental agreement on a monthly basis, since at this point, we at some point in the future, we being GWP, have plans to develop that property. But until we do, it's a good application to have the AT&T tower there, so we'd like to continue that rental at $3,000 per month.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Mr. Weaver.
Move 8B1.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Council members Draymond?
Yes.
Friedman?
Yes.
Quintero?
Yes.
Weaver?
Aye.
Mayor Najarian.
Yes. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Steiger. Let's move on to the next item, Mr. Kasar.
We can return to oral communication, or if you want to address new business.
Let's go back to oral communications, and then we'll take new business.
Returning to oral communications, this is a portion where discussion is limited to items not part of this agenda. Each speaker is allowed 5 minutes. Members of the council may question or respond to the speaker, but there will be no debate or decision, and the city manager may refer the matter to the appropriate department for investigation and a report.
Thank you. The first speaker is Patrick Masihi, followed by Joe Scopacasa. Peter.
Mayor Najarian and members of City Council, my name is Patrick Massey. I live in Glendale, and
You can go to my computer and try to access it.
Yeah, I'm trying to move the pointer, but it seems
Might be too far.
if you don't mind, I will speak from here, Mayor.
We need to get you a microphone.
Okay. I guess that will work. I'm here on behalf of the Planconi States Homeowners Association, and I'd like to show you a few pictures concerning some of the traffic issues that we're facing on San Fernando Road. And one of the major issues that we have right now is the overflow of traffic to Norton Avenue because of the at-grade crossing that we so hardly fought against for years. Now, based on the email that you received today from Jano Bagdanian, the major blame was put on the construction project, which is the bridge. Now, if you were to actually observe San Fernando Road for an hour or two every day, you will see that once the freight trains come through and that crossing starts blinking and the actual arms close, traffic builds up all the way to Grandview. So it's not the construction project itself. Traffic flows easily through the construction project. Yes, we did have a couple of days where San Fernando Road became one lane and the traffic was an issue. But as our Najarian will attest to, in the next few years, the actual number of trains will increase. we're not going to have a decrease in the number of trains. And that crossing is going to close more often. Once that crossing closes, based on federal and state law, the red light turns on. So traffic going southbound has to stop. There's no way around it. Traffic builds up all the way to Grandview. People get impatient. They cut through Norton. Based on your own data, the speed on Norton Avenue is the highest based on the 85 percentile rate of all the streets that you tested recently. And all we've been asking for the past couple of months is a speed limit sign or perhaps a no-turn sign from 4 to 7:30 p.m. These signs we see a lot in Los Angeles, Studio City, near the Studio City studios, and other locations. No precedence is going to be made if this type of a no-turn sign was to be implemented in Glendale. The precedence has already been set in other cities. I'm going to show you a couple of more pictures. By the way, before we move on, I'd like to thank the Transportation and Parking Department and also the City of Glendale, so you won't think I'm here just to blame you for all these problems. We want to thank you for actually listening to the Planconey State's HOA and putting up that sound wall. The rebars are up, as you can see, and I'm here to thank Mr. Zern and all the council members that were here with us during the years when we fought really hard to have a sound wall. Mr. Draymond was active, Frank Quintero has been very active with this, and Laura Friedman also supported us a great deal. So just to basically thank you for that particular thing. And by the way, this is a replica of what we're asking for our street, Norton Avenue, with the fact that we do have a median. Median at Norton, and this is what we're asking for. You do have this sign at Chevy Chase in Glendale. It does exist. So I don't want to be given the runaround, hey, we cannot have a no-turn sign or no restrictions. In fact, we already have those two signs that you see there with the flash and the yellow indicator, which is a mandatory thing with medians. So City of Glendale does have the ability to do this, and I don't want to hear from Mr. Jano Bagdanian that it's impossible. What you're looking at right now is actually a no-turn sign from 3 to 7 p.m., and this is in Los Angeles. It's right off of Los Feliz. Okay? So the precedence is already set. By the way, that's a very affluent neighborhood. The last 3 homes based on MLS indicate they were sold at $1.2, $1 million, and $940,000. So apparently if you live in an affluent neighborhood, you can protect yourself from traffic. Okay, so let's move on. That's the sign right there. This is another thing that happened in Glendale recently. One of our blocks requested a road closed barricade, and they got it. Okay, this is at Grange, believe it or not. We don't want this at Norton because our residents don't believe that this is what we need. This is a very extreme measure to take to block off traffic. Now, imagine that. Imagine if the precedence has already been set by the City of Glendale where they do close a road off based on traffic flow. Now, every time you have a construction project, other neighborhoods might want this. All we wanted was a speed limit sign, and we were rejected twice by the City of Glendale. We don't want this at Norton. Grange folks wanted it, they got it. But we don't want it at Norton. So in closing, I'd like to show you a couple of more pictures, if I may.
Mr. Massey has approximately 30 more seconds.
Okay, thank you very much. So based on what I've just shown you, I just want to reiterate that it's very important to us to have some kind of a traffic calming measure for our street. You've seen our emails going back and forth with Mr. Jano Bagdanian, and every request that we've made has been rejected. So with the help of City Council, hopefully this thing can move on. The least we want, at least give us a speed limit sign on Norton Avenue. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker is Joe Scopacasa, followed by Robert Movsisian.
Sure.
Evening.
Move the mic. Joe, move the mic. Oh. Good evening.
Easy, Joe, easy.
Mayor Najarian.
Easy on the equipment.
Congratulations again.
Thank you.
I enjoyed the ride this morning at the Americana. I enjoyed the trolley bus. It comes right by my street. and I'm a walker anyway, so I take it, go to the Americana, and I go to Portos, other places, and so on. Councilman, city staff. I've been here for almost 25 years. I'm going on my 25th year. I own a couple of places here. I own a condo northwest Glendale, and I own a little condo southeast Glendale. And the one in southeast, I hope I never occupy it for, at least for a long, long time. That's at Forest Lawn.
I'm with you, Jim.
That's a timeshare, isn't it, Mr. Skopakaz?
One of the problems that I have, since I walk daily on Brand and sometimes on Central and Glendale Avenue, it's the new parking meters. I help a lot of people because some people don't know that it's a new parking meter and all that. Anyway, a lot of them leave their receipts in the machine. And the next person comes in and it looks for the receipt, and you get two receipts, and one goes down on the sidewalk. And there's a lot of problem with those things. They're all over the sidewalk sometimes. And I don't know what the problem is. I know what the problem is. I don't know how to solve it. The other item that I'd like to mention a little bit, it's the Easter Bunny thing. We're missing the point on that. Some of us are missing the point. We have a lot of problems. Like I said, I walk a lot. I see a lot of pedestrians jaywalking. I see a lot of drivers talking on the phone, and you have to make eye contact. I have to make eye contact when I cross the street. Otherwise, I get run over 3-4 times a day. And the point that the police department is trying to make is try to get people's attention. We do have a problem here, and we're one of the worst cities in traffic fatalities and traffic accidents that we have in the whole United States. I don't know, we're 171 out of 174, something like that.
The third worst.
That's awful. So that point, we're missing a point. The police department is trying to many things. We try the lights. We try to educate people, and that was one of the tools that they used to attract our attention. And I think a lot of us missed the point. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Robert Movsisian, followed by Scott Peer.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor Najarian, council members, and staff. We don't know what tomorrow brings. 1915, 1.5 million Armenians were tortured, killed, and massacred by Ottoman regime. It is the Turkish government. Bloody Nazi regime killed over 6 million Jews by that murderous bastard. We were too naive to believe that could not happen to us. We did not have the vision. What might tomorrow bring? As you well know, the Bill 1070 was signed a few days ago by the governor of Arizona. The the police, has all the power to put you in jail if you are not blonde or blue eyes. The same thing Polizei and Gestapo did to our Jewish friends. They were allowed to ask anybody anywhere to show who a little bit Jewish, if they were circumcised or not. If you were blonde and blue eyes, you were okay. But if you looked Jewish, you were not okay. They will look everywhere. We don't know what tomorrow brings. Another Talat Pasha, another Hitler, another Eichmann, another Göring. Who caused 60 million deaths? 60 million, 6 with 7 zeros. We don't know what tomorrow brings. Some people say Rush Limbaugh or Glenn or Fox News, they are entertainers. I think they are very, very dangerous entertainers. We should not take them lightly. They symbolize that children killer Timothy McVeigh, who blew up federal building in Oklahoma City, like that Cordish, whatever his name is, who was hiding behind children. They believe in anarchy and lawlessness. I tell them education is the answer, not missiles and guns. The only difference between us and animals is that we can't talk. We don't know what tomorrow brings. We live in the greatest country in the world, which I'm proud to be the citizen of. The land of law. Nobody is above the law. We still don't know what tomorrow brings. Germany was known as the country of arts and music and civilized people, but we experienced that bastard like Hitler could brainwash the masses, mostly lightly-minded people. We, I mean American people, American soldiers, our poor soldiers, our young soldiers, kill because they have different views of the world. Because they say it's in our U.S. interest. We don't know what tomorrow brings. Well, politics hand to hand have to play never-ending games. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Scott Peer, followed by Mike Mohill.
Good evening. I'm Scott Peer. Thank you for listening. I'm here to talk about how difficult it is to get solar energy in Glendale. In 2007, I selected an architect and a solar contractor. In 2008, GWP approved the plans, but planning rejected our application, and the city attorney won't help us. To this day, the city continues to illegally block me from building my solar system. The first sentence of California Government Code 65850.5 says, the implementation of consistent statewide standards to achieve the timely and cost-effective installation of solar systems is not a municipal affair, as the term is used in Section 5, Article 11 of the California Constitution, but is instead a matter of statewide concern. Notice that the word timely is a 10th word in the law. The law passed in 2004 and was motivated by the state's frustration with cities like Glendale that it had still not complied with the California Solar Rights Act of 1978. Stonewalling applications is an obvious tactic that cities like Glendale use to keep solar energy out. The city received a letter from California Deputy Attorney General Deborah Slan on February 9th of this year. The letter states the city is in direct conflict with the law. The letter states that one of the solutions proposed by planning on October 21st, 2009 would correct the problem by removing zoning restrictions on solar energy systems. The letter states that all of the arguments used by the cities to support their position lack merit. The letter urges the city to correct its noncompliance with the Solar Rights Act of 1978. The letter welcomes the city to discuss the matter with the State Attorney General's office. And yet, rather than take any of the suggested actions, on April 14th, the City Attorney's office instead blocked planning from presenting the solution accepted by the Attorney General. The City Attorney's office claims that they were analyzing the letter, but the letter is simple, direct, and needs no analysis. And besides, the City Council could simply approve the changes already written by planning that the Attorney General says would correct the problem without the Planning Commission. Is this something the city does every day, receive letters from the state saying they're violating the law and they refuse to take action to stop the illegal activity? This is not the only way the city is blocking solar energy using delay tactics. On November 9, 2009, my attorney filed a Public Records Act request for information on solar building permits to find out what happened to others who applied for permits. The California Public Records Act gives 10 days for the city to determine the availability and 14 additional days to produce the records. Once again, the city failed to comply with the law. On December 15th, the city replied after the legal deadline. They claimed they only found 2 applications. The ones produced did not include one that we knew existed. In other words, the city not only denies its residents our solar rights, it also denies our rights to access city records concerning solar systems. But blocking Planning Commission hearings and refusing public record requests are not the only delay tactics the city uses to block solar energy. Plan checker Jan Bayer never once returned or answered or returned a phone call, even though my contractor and I called him several dozen times concerning our application. He sat on our application for months at a time, and in the last round never completed his review after more than 3 months. Rather than review the details of the plan, he simply changed the description to something which was factually incorrect. He asked for drawings already in possession of the city and did not even direct it to the other departments for their review. It's important to remember that the city is not blocking solar energy to serve the public. I took a petition for my solar energy system to my neighbors. All but one signed it, mostly enthusiastically. One, my next-door neighbor, was hesitant. He had called the city. Someone in planning told him that my design would not be structurally sound and would block his view from the patio, neither of which is true. We talked about this. I explained what the system was. Now he's fine with the plan. I asked others who aren't neighbors which they prefer, solar energy or ugly power plants belching filth into the air that causes cancer and asthma and destroys the environment. You can probably guess how many people choose ugly, filthy power plants. 0. So I come back to the same questions I've asked for over a year, but I've not heard an answer. Why is the city of Glendale breaking laws, defying the wishes of the public in order to deny residents our right to build solar systems?
Thank you. Mike Mohill.
He does this. By the way, Mr. Mayor, I want to just point out that at every oral communications period, whether it's here or our afternoon sessions, we go through this routine. Mr. Mohill steps out when his time is up, comes back at the end so he can speak last. I just want to point out that we know that's going on. I mean, it's not a big mystery. So might as well just request speak last.
Sounds like a dictatorship.
It's a dictatorship, Mr. Clinton. Rather than go through this charade every single night. So.
Well, let's go to Herbert Milano. Unless you want to go last, then we have a problem.
And it's a battle.
I have a PowerPoint presentation, by the way, Mayor Najarian. Appreciate if I could be helped out in the process. Mayor Najarian, members of the City Council, my name is Herbert Milano. First, I want to address the comments that were made by Councilman Weaver earlier today concerning the presentation of documents having to do with the pension obligation of the City of Glendale and the information that appeared on the budget. It appeared to me from the study of the budget, and as was presented in 2001, that it did not coincide with the information presented in the comprehensive annual financial report. This is the last one for this current year. And so, in order to corroborate that information, I made a California Public Records Act request. The City Attorney's Office sent the information to the Finance Department, and they produced the record. And that record stated the actual amounts paid by the city as the employer contribution. I did another request 6 months before that on the same information to corroborate it. That information also had the same document. Here's my point. What Mr. McFall did not tell you is that that is the information that we based our analysis. It is information that was presented by the Chief Financial Officer here for the City of Glendale, the Finance Director. Now, I handed those documents to you at the very beginning, but you have a policy of not communicating with the Speaker. So what Mr. Weaver did not tell you is the fact that I did hand the information to you at the very beginning of the meeting, and you had an opportunity to basically ask me where the information came from. But the documents themselves said those were official city documents. Now, here's my presentation today. The PowerPoint presentation that I'm presenting to you comes in the data, comes from this section of the CAFR. It's called the Combined Statement of Revenues and Expenditures. There's a section here with regard to non-major governmental funds for special revenue, which includes the Fire Paramedic Fund. I went back through all of the CAFRs through all of these years, picked it from there, and built a report that combines the past 11 years. What is so essential about this is that I've been asking the City Council to look at the trends in expenditures because it is the basic problem that we have with the state of California and the federal government, which is a lack of control of the city's expenses. The other information comes from the statement of expenditures from the general fund for the fire department. Thank you very much. Next one. All right, there are only two graphs. This is the graph of the paramedic operating expense that comes from the comprehensive annual financial report. And what I want to show is the increasing trend year after year. Now, this is what I've been asking city councils continually, and the reason why I come here, to point to you that the expenses of many, particularly with fire and police, are increasing at a rate that is unsustainable. And I also have data going back through the 1990s. The next chart, please. This is the chart of the fire department for the general fund expenditures. Again, increasing from around 17 million in 1999 to roughly 34 million for the appropriation for 2010. It's a doubling of the expenses in 10 years. And the question that I'm asking is, how can you justify it? Can the fire department justify those costs? And the problem with trying to justify those costs is that there has been a significant increase in the payroll. There has been a significant increase in the pensions. Consequently, we are finding ourselves that the overall budget is impacted negatively. And it is the significant reason for the shortfall in the budget deficit that you have. So I'm bringing this to you because it is so important that you look at the trends on all these expenses and for you to do a comparison of fire department, police department, the libraries, public works, so that you can actually tell the significant increases of two safety departments and the significantly negative impact that it has had on the city's budget. I don't come here to waste your time or to waste my time, but I know that oftentimes, once I sit down, Mr. Weaver decides to turn my statements, make statements that cannot be corroborated, and all of my statements are. So I suggest and I ask you to respect my presentations so that you can consider it in the analysis that you need to do to be a prudent government with regard to the city's finances and with regard to some type of respect for the taxpayer. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Mulhill, why did you leave the room? Okay. It appears as though you may be trying to obtain the last word in our communications, so
Not quite.
I'm going to pay very close attention to when you leave.
Thank you. Right on. Good evening, Mayor and Nigerian council members. I had a prepared speech this evening, but I'm going to digress from it because I found the comments by Councilman Frank Quintero very offensive. He makes the comment, the same people come forward and speak all the time at council. Isn't that nice to know people are concerned enough to come here on a weekly basis or during the budget sessions in the morning or the afternoons? You know, in the good old days, council meetings were at 2:30 in the afternoon, and the only people who showed up were city staff. And all they did is just rubber stamp everything they did. Everything was in and out, okay? I'm thinking about what happened this morning. When I was this afternoon, when I questioned housing and I questioned also redevelopment, etc. Okay, the point is, I was the only person from the public who cared what goes on in the city of Glendale. Isn't that a shame? And because of the questions I asked, we ended up with a lively discussion. Had I not showed up, Mr. Quintero, you'd all be gone within 30 minutes, and you could have had your afternoon nap. Getting ready for this evening, brother, going falling asleep. And Mr. Weaver, you're half asleep already.
Don't bet on it.
Okay, I hope so. This is disgusting. Do we have a dictator here that tells us you can only speak, we only want certain people to talk here? I take my time, I spend my energy, I can talk with my neighbors about what goes on in the city of Glendale, and they're fed up. They say these potholes are disgusting. Why can't they fix Glen Oaks Boulevard? Are we a stepchild? My wife did a trip and fall. I'm going to remind you to. Mr. Molano takes the time and energy. He's a systems analyst. He's smarter than all of us here. And he has the nerve, and you question him. You question a man who takes his time. He's brighter than we are, and you all know it. Then you say, you're not part of our staff. Isn't that disgusting? Horrible. Mr. Quintero, why don't you do a presentation and tell your colleagues how smart you are in analyzing the financial problem that you brought us into? You've been here already how many seasons now? And through your season of being in business here and government here, we're in the financial crisis we're in right now, you and the city manager. Wages, pensions, pensions, and pensions. City of Glendale is no different than the state of California and the federal government. The unions are running the city. You all receive money from them. Until we change that system, you're going to pat the back of the fire department, the police department, the city managers, and the Glendale Employees Association. We don't need a dictator here, Mr. Quintero. I like the city to bring back the oral communication at the beginning of council meetings, not at the end when there's no audience. Let the public that are here right now and at home, early on, not at 20 minutes to 8, but at 6:30 in the evening when they're having dinner, they can watch the program. They can bring their kids here and watch government in action like it should be. Like when I first came here in 2007, Mayor Najarian, I liked coming here. But a few months later, Mr. Draymond took over, and he changed oral communication to the end of the evening. And Mr. Draymond, you should thank yourself for making me become a political activist. Because I only came here because of the Indigenous Tree Ordinance, followed by, if you recall, the smoking ordinance between you and Mr. Weaver on the Pasadena Weekly newsletter. And that, yeah, you remember smoking, the embarrassment that Mr. Weaver created for the city? You know, the Armenians, they're horrible people, they smoke. That was a disgusting period of our time here. So, why do we need to have oral communication at the end of the evening? Why don't we have it at the beginning, like the good old days when you were in? And action items can start without having to have a card in right away. I remember Margaret Hammond said, gee, I didn't know we were going to talk about water, whatever it's going to be. But she didn't have her card in, and Mr. Quintero was going to say, you can't talk, Margaret, but this time we'll let you talk. Do we have a dictatorship here? Is this a democracy? They're crying in Tehran. You talk about the Armenian genocide. Hey, I was at the Armenian genocide at the end of on Saturday night. I didn't tell you that, but that's another thing, okay? I understand. People are crying for democracy, and you're shutting it down here every Tuesday night if you get a chance. Enough is enough. Please, bring back democracy to Glendale.
Thank you, Mr. Mohel. I don't have any other cards. Let me go to my colleagues to see if they would like to get into this. Mr. Quintero.
Have you ever heard the term "you need to chill out"? I think you need to chill out. I was reacting to Mr. Milano's statement that people come to the podium making it seem like people come and somehow we deprive them of their constitutional right to speak. But no, in fact, it's pretty much the same people that come. And whenever someone comes to that podium, I'm the first person to listen to what they have to say. But Mr. Mohel, you've been around for years now, and the same pattern of behavior, it never really changes. And it's interesting that you talk about coming to this city council and getting involved in 2007. That's interesting because I got involved in the city of Glendale in 1977. I spent years and years working in South Glendale, working with all of the nonprofits there, et cetera, et cetera. Never saw your face, not once. That goes for Mr. Milano. Never saw his face, not once. But yet, for the last few years, I've had to sit here and listen and have you talk about South Glendale like you're the savior of South Glendale and we don't do enough about South Glendale, et cetera, et cetera. You know what I recommend? That you actually go to South Glendale and do something. Join some nonprofits, get involved in all of the different types of work that needs to be done in that portion of the city. but you don't. I think you prefer to come here and grandstand, and you do seem normally to have a good time. That's why I'm kind of recommending that you chill out a little bit. Tonight you seem a little bit ill at ease.
Thank you. Ms. Friedman.
Yeah, just a few responses. Mr. Zern, if our parking meter systems are causing litter, I don't know that they are, but if they are, maybe we can look into what we can do about it, or
Mr.
or
Mayor,
be done about it.
Councilmember Friedman, it is what we're trying to do is establish, it gives you a receipt regardless. We're trying to get the feature that many of you have seen in an ATM that gives you the option to
Right.
choose the receipt. Because so many people do want the receipt, it's all or nothing right now. The firm is trying to develop something.
Okay, so the answer there is we're working on it. Sounds like they're aware of the problem. In terms of Pelanconi, Mr. Jono's not here tonight, but I think if my colleagues would agree, I'd like to hear some kind of solutions, some options for them, whether it's a no left turn lane during peak hours, or, but let's just hear more about it. Let's get into it a little bit.
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Friedman, this has been going on for a long, long time, and I think the best way to address it is I will submit a report to the city manager to share with you, because the information or misinformation keeps going back and forth, and I'd like to just at least go through the chronology of what's taken place.
Okay, thanks. And then last, I did want to address Mr. Peer and his issue. I think he knows that I'm genuinely supportive of his effort. But I also feel like it's important that the public understands, what's happening here, that it's a little more complex than it sounds. And if you think about it, it doesn't really make sense that just out of meanness or spite, the city would be trying to block someone from doing a solar installation on their house. It's a little more complicated because this particular solar installation has to do with a structure that, in the eyes of planning, might not have been permitted in the first place. So there's some complicating factors here, but I do. So it's not that the city is against solar. I mean, and to characterize it as that, I just think is really, it's not productive and it's not true. I think we're very supportive of solar. In fact, if you look at the incentives that the city of Glendale gives to people who want to put solar in compared to a lot of most other cities, I think we're really aggressive in trying to give people economic incentives to do solar installations. I do think that there's some potential solutions that we can come up with, and one of the things that I talked to our planning department about that I would like to see come back to either come to us or to the Planning Commission is maybe if people want to do energy efficient upgrades that involve variances that are required, that maybe we reduce or waive variance fees for people that are need a variance for a new structure but are going to incorporate a lot of energy upgrades or solar. I mean, I think there are solutions like that make it easier to get variances and make it easier to move through the process. But to just say that anyone who wants to do a solar installation should be exempt from zoning, I think is a very dangerous kind of precedent. We did ask to hear some kind of a response to the letter that we received, so hopefully that'll be coming back to us so that we can see legally where we stand. I still would like to work with Mr. Peer and the Planning Department. I think they would like to see you be able to build your solar installation as well. So I think that there is a lot of desire here to help Mr. Peer out, and I hope he avails himself of it and we can get his project moving.
Mr. Howard,
quickly, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I believe the issue involving the solar installations that we're talking about is coming before the Planning Commission June 2nd for discussion, including a confidential memorandum and an analysis by my staff.
Okay.
So, and you'll be receiving a copy of that as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else? No? Mr. Draymond?
Yeah. I will not repeat anything that has already been touched by my colleagues. There was one comment that was made by Mr. Mohill that I do want to address when he was talking about smoking ordinance, and he mentioned my name in regard to comments related to the Armenian community. Just for the record, ladies and gentlemen here and at home, I made no comments about the Armenian community one way or the other with regard to the smoking ordinance or anything else, as Mr. Mohill knows, and I know he was trying to say, but it didn't come out exactly clearly, that there was a paper in Pasadena that was trying to reach me for an interview while I was out of the state. And they interviewed one of my colleagues and ran that interview in the paper with my name on it. So it did create a little bit of a controversy for a short time. And I would point out that one of the first groups to come forward to clarify the issue was the Armenian National Committee, who came forward to say, no, that was not Mr. Draymond's comments. It was a colleague. And how those are interpreted or misinterpreted is up to others to decide, but I just wanted to make it clear. I didn't have any comments with regard to the Armenian community one way or the other. To me, smoking is smoking, and it has to do with trying to move this city forward in dealing with an issue that's both a behavioral issue and an issue of addiction, and that's not easy to do. And that doesn't matter whether you are part of the Armenian community or any other ethnic or cultural or other group. So, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Weaver?
No, I don't want to waste my breath. I'd like to go and watch the Lakers.
Okay, I just want to say, Mr. Mohl, your criticism of Mr. Quintero is not well-founded to the extent that you call him a dictator or he's anti-free speech. The order of the agenda and the taking of the cards for public comment are all my decision, and I think we have a pretty good democracy going on when you can stand up and lay some pretty harsh words on most of us, if not all of us, and not just you, others, and we sit and we listen, and we do try and get through the personal issues and get to the crux of the matter that is raised by you and others. As far as readjusting oral communications, I'll think about that. But I know a lot of people tune in to see you, Mr. Mohill. If we put you early in the program, we're going to lose half our audience. So that might not be good for our ratings. I think that's all I have to say. Mr. McFall.
Yeah, just one item. I think we've thoroughly gone through the explanation on the pension funds. I do want to say something in fairness to Mr. Milano. We did find that there was some confusion in the summary reports that, in fact, when combined, listed some of the pension contributions as the employer when they actually were the employee. It just was a function of PeopleSoft. That was in the early 2000s. That was corrected later on, so that it always continued to separate them. So, in fairness, to state why there could be a misunderstanding on that.
Thank you. Do we have any new business?
Yes. Just a second. On the new business, I have to recuse myself because my wife works for a financial institution that is involved in this case. So I will have to...
Will you remain and adjourn the meeting in the memory of our former mayor?
No.
Or would you like to?
No, it's only I have to leave the dais. So I'll go in the back room, come back, and adjourn.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. Friedman.
I'll wait for Mr. Weaver to clear the room.
This far enough, or do I have to go outside?
Keep going. Keep going.
Mr. Howard's pointing to the...
Till we say stop.
Okay.
Okay, reflecting Mr. Weaver's recusal.
Well, now that he's gone, I would like to move that the city attorney be and hereby is authorized to initiate legal action in the Superior Court against Deutsche Bank National Trust Company as trustee of the IndyMac INDX Mortgage Loan Trust and /or Deutsche Bank NA and /or One West Bank FSB. The nature of the authorized legal action is a civil lawsuit seeking abatement of nuisance conditions at 1372 Opeechee Way, Glendale, California 91208. The city attorney is further authorized to incur any and all expenses necessary in connection with said matter.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Council members Draymond?
Yes.
Friedman?
Yes.
Quintero?
Yes.
Weaver? Mayor Najarian?
Yes. Is there any other new business?
Just got to go and watch the TV rerun. I know what you did.
Is there a motion?
It's your motion, Mr. Weaver.
Is there a motion to adjourn in memory of Donald McWilliams?
That's my motion.
Thank you.
Second, we are adjourned.